My name's Tracey Spicer. I'm a writer, broadcaster and journalist, and I've got somewhat of a portfolio career. I work across all platforms. I do some news reading for Sky News. I've been a newsreader for many years. I do writing for Fairfax newspapers, some opinion writing, some travel writing, some news writing. I also perform a lot of online writing these days, you know, opinion pieces and again news pieces, and I do fill-in broadcasting shifts on talkback radio. So I'm a little bit of what would you say, a jack of all trades. The good thing about a 24-hour news channel is you don't only have to sit there and read an auto cue, you actually get to do live interviews, to come up with story ideas, to do rolling coverage. I remember sitting on set once for 9 hours when a news story was rolling. Good evening. The holiday island of Bali has again become the target of terrorists. 3 bombs ripped through popular restaurants, injuring more than 100 people. It's a wonderful, fun, very challenging job. I really enjoy that. But because I've been news reading for more than 20 years now, I wanted new challenges, and that's why I moved into the print and online space. I'm very excited about the challenges in new media. At Fairfax newspapers, I write a combination of opinion pieces about social justice and feminism, things that I'm passionate about, sometimes politics. I also write travel features and a travel column for Fairfax because that's a really nice lifestyle gig. That's one of the great things about journalism. You can do a little bit of everything. Online, I write for a lot of different online sites. I write for the Hoopla, I write a little bit for The Guardian as well. Pretty much anyone who asks me, I'll write a column for them because I absolutely love writing. So that involves with opinion pieces, coming up with a position on a topic and then writing a piece about it. It can be anywhere between 400 and 800 words. With regards to radio broadcasting, I fill in hosting shows on 2UE from time to time, and that involves going in there for an 8-hour shift, preparing a program for about 6 hours, then being on air for 2 or 3 hours and presenting that shift. One of the wonderful things about being a freelance journalist is that every day is different. I guess it's probably more valuable for me to talk about what an average week might be for me rather than an average day, because every day is entirely different. One day I might be doing a shift at Sky News, so perhaps a breakfast shift, doing rolling news from very early in the morning. Then I'll come home and perhaps write an opinion piece for a website. And then after that, I'd like to pick up the kids from school. My husband drops off the kids in the morning and I pick them up in the afternoon. That might be one day. The next day I might be emceeing an event or keynote speaking at an event. That's something I do a lot of as well. The following day might be travelling somewhere for a travel story and then coming home and writing that. The following day might be something entirely different, doing a radio shift, researching some stories. I spend an awful lot of time on the phone and on the computer researching stories. I'm very fortunate, having been a journalist for a long time, that I have many whistleblowers who contact me with stories. So once I get those stories and research them, I then spend a long time writing them, and then my last day might be pitching them to different media organisations. I like to match the story with the particular media organisation to get the best coverage for whoever wants to get their story out there. I love new media and the online space. I'm a feminist. I think it gets women's voices out there more. It's very empowering. The mass media has been quite a closed shop for a long time. So these online sites get disparate voices out there that otherwise would have been silenced. I also like the immediacy of it. I guess when I finished university almost 30 years ago, I went into broadcast journalism first. I did radio and television before I did newspapers. I kind of did my career upside down in a way. And because I did it like that, I learnt to write very quickly. So I like the immediacy of online where, you know, I can hear a story and it can be published within a matter of hours. I think that's tremendous for democracy. My best advice is to be tenacious, no matter how talented you are. And there are a lot of talented people out there who are good at writing, good at reading, good at speaking. But if you're not tenacious, you won't get through. You've simply got to keep knocking on doors. Even a lot of us who've been in the industry for a long time, I'm 47, I've been in the industry since I left school and did my journalism degree. I still knock on doors. I still call up editors or email editors and say, would you like me to write something about this, or would you like me to broadcast something about that? It's true that a lot of work does come to you later in your career, but you've still got to keep pushing the boundaries and being tenacious. And that's appropriate in applying for jobs, but also trying to get talent to research stories, to get people to talk on the record. I think tenacity is absolutely the key. I like covering all types of stories. I'm very curious, you know, I'm the kind of person who just loves listening to people and their stories, sitting around a dinner party conversation and hearing people's stories come out of them. You know, I think it's remarkable. I think it's a privilege to be able to tell someone else's story. Today, I want to tell you the story of 27-year-old Jennifer Alupo. We met Jennifer at the Women's Refuge in Palisa today. Jennifer was sold to her husband for the price of 2 cows. Jennifer's husband wanted to get his money's worth, so he made her breastfeed the family puppies when she was lactating with her babies. I like stories of, you know, success and triumph against adversity. I like stories that show the heart of someone rather than just a story about facts and figures. Obviously we have to have the facts and figures, but I just like peeling away the layers on someone's persona, or even on an issue, even on politics. Let's dig down and see what's really behind things. So I guess what motivates me as a journalist is to see what's beneath. A lot of us who go into journalism, you know, we're quite good talkers. That's not the most important thing. Being a good listener is the most important thing. There is nothing worse than when you watch an interviewer on the television and they ask the talent a question that's just been answered a couple of minutes before. And I know that's really easy for interviewers to do because often you've got your earpiece in, someone's talking to you while you're interviewing someone. It's easy to miss something, but you've got to work your whole life on listening very deeply to what people say. So I think listening is the key skill as well. Most of my friends are journalists or cameramen or editors, and the hours are tough. And I know we're not digging ditches, you know, I know it's a very privileged position to be working in this white-collar job. But if you're going to be a journalist or work in the media, you have to accept that you are going to work odd hours for the rest of your life. And that means working weekends and getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning for years on end, or working late at night. And when you're young, that's great, it's fun and it's exciting. But when you get older and have a family, it's quite difficult to juggle that with a family. You're often away a lot. My husband's a cameraman and I'm a journalist, so it's always one of us away, interstate or overseas, and that is exciting and that's glamorous and it's fun. But when you've got a family, that is a difficult thing to manage. So I would say that the most challenging thing are the awkward hours. It's a very family unfriendly job. I think traditionally it's been a very high stress job. It's been a very fast paced job. But that suits some personalities more than others. If you thrive on adrenaline, it's a really good job for you. That suits me. I'm like a goldfish, you know, I'm doing something 1 minute, then doing something else the next minute. I love nothing better than being in a newsroom when a big story breaks.
Fears for the safety of 3 Australians missing in hurricane-ravaged Mexico. More than 100 people killed as a 737 goes down in Nigeria. And the new faces of the Australian music industry, the young stars who took over the Arias.
10 News with Tracey Spicer.
If that's what suits you, then it's a great career for you. But that high stress environment is very challenging. You often finish an 8-hour shift and your heart's pumping, you know, at 100 beats a minute. And in the past, a lot of journalists drank too much. Because of that, they go to the pub to wind down. Nowadays, there are better ways of de-stressing. We all tend to go for a walk or go to the gym to keep ourselves healthy, but the high stress level is definitely an issue. It really is a wonderful job, and I can't imagine doing anything else for a career. It's what I've always wanted to do. Actually, from when I was 12 years old, I was writing for the school newspaper, and it's what I want to do until my dying day. The reason for that is because it's exciting and it's interesting, and there's something different every day. You're not, even if you're working for the one workplace, it's not as if you're going into the same office doing the same thing every day. There's always something different. The other great thing is you meet fascinating people. You have entree and an open door to speak to prime ministers, to speak to pop stars, to speak to intellectuals. You know, I've had the most fascinating conversations and met the most extraordinary people through this job that, coming from a very working class background, I wouldn't have been able to learn from these kind of people and meet these people. So I think being given a really specific, fascinating and insightful look at these people close up is one of the greatest gifts of the job. I think it's extremely important to try to get work experience or an internship somewhere, but please, please, please be careful about getting exploited. I don't like this trend these days of people using interns for a year and not paying them. I think that's terrible. So my advice is to seek out work experience, to make contacts and to network, but put boundaries around it and make sure you're not exploited by an employer, because that happens really easily. Insofar as what employers are looking for in someone who's doing work experience, tenacity, intelligence and passion. It's extraordinary the number of people I've seen in work experience over the years who've sort of said things like, oh yeah, I'm not sure whether this is what I want to do, I might do something else down the track. I mean, there's a cross on their name straight away, because there are so many other really tenacious, hard-working, work experienced people who show a passion and an aptitude for the job. So before you go for work experience, do research on who you're going to be working with. Do research on the media organisation. Try to come up with some stories of your own and bring something valuable to the table. I'm actually quite shy. So for decades, even after being in television for 20 years, if I looked at another media organisation and thought, oh gee, I'd like to work there, I didn't have the courage to call up and even speak to the news director. I'm incredibly shy. So my advice is to try, if you're shy like me, to break through that shyness and pick up the phone and call. Because like I said earlier, tenacity is the key. You can just imagine a news director or a CEO or an office manager sitting there. Honestly, they have resumes this high on their table. The other thing is, if you're going to make a job tape, make it so that it works. I've been sent job tapes that the kind of media is corrupted and it doesn't work. Well, that's just going straight in the bin. Put your best stuff in the first minute, because employers only have about 1 minute to look at how good you are, whether you work on camera, if it's a television thing, whether your voice sounds good on radio, if it's for radio. Same with the written word. Try to put everything on your CV on one page, because people are very time poor. The way to cut through is to be tenacious, to keep calling, did you receive my CV? But also make sure you're not taking up too much of their time, because that will give them the pips and it means your CV will just be thrown in the bin. It's important to expect when you're starting out in journalism that you will be doing a lot of the crap jobs. And it's easy to resent that, because you think, hang on, I've been doing some studying, I'm good at this, I want this job. Try not to be, obviously, like I say, be tenacious and be passionate, but try not to put your colleagues offside by not doing the hard yards. We've all done the hard yards at the start. I did a journalism degree and then I did a cadetship at a radio station for a year. Then I went and did police reporting, where you're on call 24 hours a day, for 2 years in Melbourne. Then I went and did country television, where I did cow and sheep stories for 2 years, going to the local council, reading the local council minutes. And it was only after that I got a metropolitan TV job. So it's a really, really long road. You have to accept that you've got to work your way up. That's not to say put up with doing that hard stuff for too long, but you've got to accept that you really do have to start at the bottom and work your way up. A lot of people are getting their start in journalism these days by writing blogs and building their name, building reputation in that way, and that is a tremendous way to get started these days. You're really working on your writing skills, you're getting your name out there. But if you are going to do that, you do have to put robust work into each blog. There are a lot of blogs out there that really aren't very good, let's face it. And to get cut through, you've got to do your research properly, you've got to get a secondary source, all of that classic journalistic stuff. So make your phone calls, do your research, structure it really clearly, have a clear beginning, middle and end. A lot of people write blogs and there's no clear ending. You've really got to wrap it up and put a ribbon around it for readers. The best advice for someone who wants to go into broadcast journalism is to look back at your work or listen back to your work if it's radio. It's really hard to do. None of us like looking back at ourselves. None of us, even after being in this industry for all these years, I still hate it. But I do it because it's the only way to improve. You'll see something small and each time you look back, you'll improve just that little bit.